brainwashed in our childhood, brainwashed by the school, brainwashed by our teachers, and brainwashed by all their rules, brainwashed by our leaders, by our kings and queens, brainwashed in the open and brainwashed behind the scenes.
God, God, God.
Our voice cries in the wilderness.
God, God, God.
It was on the longest night.
God, God, God.
An eternity of darkness.
God, God, God.
Someone turned out the spiritual light.
As humanity traverses the collective dark night of the soul, we came together and decided to step up amongst so much insanity, to be an authentic, heart-centered and unified voice in sharing our personal stories and experiences, with the hope of inspiring and awakening others into their true nature as the eternal God, light and love that we are. In this critical time of evolution, the time is now to choose peace and harmlessness, to seek alignment with truth and courage. The time is now to cultivate our soul, to understand our multi-dimensional selves, whilst guarding and protecting our minds. Let us break down the walls of separation and classification. Let's reconnect our hearts to the oneness. Will you take steps to heal yourself, to choose pro-human values? Our inner work is to free ourselves from pain and delusion, so we can live with clarity and coherence, in service to others and our communities. What is the agenda of the anti-human controllers? What is the agenda of divide and conquer? Imagine what life could be like right now if you lived on this planet in harmless actions. How can we stand up for our inherent human rights? Can we do the right thing in the face of tyranny, in reclaiming our sovereign freedom, demanding truthful information and full disclosure? For one and for all, we are the Truth Pulse.
Okay, well, hello and welcome back to the Truth Pulse group. So here we are today, and today we will be discussing mind control. I will be hosting today's discussion, and we have Sonia and Linda here with us. So just a little brief introduction on myself. We've done our little introductions before, but I'll just mention it again. My name is Trinity. I am a truth seeker and came onto this earth plane to participate, witness, heal, and assist humanity and the earth during this beautiful ascension process, ascension cycle, challenging and beautiful. I endeavor to practice the natural laws, live by the laws of unity, freedom, and sovereignty for all, and also in alignment with the cosmic sovereign law of one. And today I will be introducing the topic of mind control. I'm saying introducing because it is a vast topic, and it may take us longer than just one podcast. So, and I'd like to go slow and just and in a flow. So we'll see. So we're going to start with, first of all, just mention what themes we're going to be discussing. So today we will look at what mind control is, who benefits from mind control, how mind control is being administered, or in what way it is being delivered to us, and what are the important things that perhaps we need to know about mind control, and what can we do, at least, or start doing to help ourselves to be free from it. So these are quite interesting topics, quite important topics. So this is what we're going to be covering today. So let's start with why is it important to understand mind control now? So we mentioned again before, again in our first podcast, that currently our planet and humanity in the process of, in the cycle of ascension. And this is a very important time. During this time, certain opportunities are becoming very, certain opportunities are given to us. And these opportunities can only present themselves during these cycles. So it's a very important time for us to really make progress and make huge steps in our evolution and evolution of the planet. So hence we have important choices to make. And these choices could be summarized as two important choices. Choice one is that our planet continues to evolve organically and naturally via the organic process, and will continue via the ascending planet trajectory. So we will be an ascending planet. We will have a status of the ascending planet, and the inhabitants of the planet will be given to opportunity to evolve within the open source system, which means evolving probably maybe within the polarity system, but evolving with joy, evolving with creative expression rather than suffering and nightmare that we have been experiencing here for so long. So this is choice number one. Choice number two is that our planet and its inhabitants potentially spiral into a finite cycle of devolution by aligning with transhumanist agenda and merging with artificial intelligence. So this is a very dark prospect for us, because it will turn us into the hive mind race of automated cyborgs controlled by the AI. So here we go, two choices. And it's currently up to us individually and collectively to really make an effort or to see that we have this choice and do what we can in order to be able to make the right choice for ourselves and for our planet and for us as a collective. So I just want to kind of pause here a little bit and just sit on it for a while to just really sink that in. What would we like to choose for ourselves? Technology is very tempting. You know, it's very quick, it's tempting, it's cool, it's a lot of interesting augmentations that could be done to the brain, to the mind. Interesting, yes. And there are certain advantages of technology, but it's very important for us to understand that there are forces that utilizing that technology for nefarious purposes, and mind control is what is helping that agenda. And unless we understand it, how can we make a choice? So that's why it's important for us to really look at mind control now. Linda, Sonia, anything you would like to add to this? Anything you feel you might want to share about why is it important for us to understand mind control, especially now?
Well, I know, you know, from something that you had said, you know, in your introduction here, yeah, that was well said. It was well said. It's certainly something that we need to consider and really give some thought to, like you said. You know, it's about taking responsibility. It's about making the choice now. What do we want to do? Do we want to grow our soul, our consciousness? Do we want to break free and live with creative expression? Do we want the single soul occupancy, etc.? You know, or do we not? Do we want to continue on with having these different races of beings who've disconnected from God's source to run us? And do we want to continue this enslavement system? You know, what's the choice? What is the choice? It's a free will choice. And, you know, what came to mind is, you know, what happens if we choose not to evolve? You know, what happens if there are people on the planet that say, I'm happy with where I'm at. I don't want to evolve. I'm happy, in my AI-ridden existence, my artificial intelligence existence. I'm happy with how my life is. I think it's important to maybe talk about for a few moments, okay, if there are choices, then what are the consequences of those choices?
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. Yes, and the consequences, again, are the consequences of any finite system, parasitic system. So if we look at the choices that we have, one choice is that we're choosing the open source system, which is based on being self-sustained, not parasitic, yes, and another system, which is where we are in an entropic, almost like existing in an entropic system where we always need something or somebody to siphon energy from. And this is what the second choice is taking us, is to the system where there is this codependent parasitic relationship exists between two parties. And this is why transhumanism is so attractive to this negative agendas, is because by merging with AI, we are also becoming partially parasitic.
Right.
Yeah. So this is what for us is probably the consequences of that. And the consequences of becoming parasitic is our genetics will digress. It's
Right.
quite, it has consequences.
Yes.
I would say space dust return ultimately for that type of choice.
Yeah, for me it's simple. It's mind control was created for slavery, for us to be slaves. So do you want to be free of slavery or not? Basically.
And the point of mind control is to make sure you don't wake up. So that's the paradox. That's what we're dealing with. So yes, but very good points from you both. It really makes one think about all this. Okay, so now we're going to move to...
Can I add one other thing, Trinity?
Yes, yeah.
What I remember as part of the energetic synthesis teachings, the crystal star teachings.
When you wake up to it, then that's when you know, actually.
Yes.
It was said that consciousness corridors have been created for beings to be transited out through. And in other words, it has been made very clear to us that this is an ascending planet. So even if there are beings here who don't want to ascend, if there are beings here who are, satisfied in their roles and they're not willing to work through and clear the AI, clear the mind control, etc., if they're happy with status quo, they're being asked to leave. They're being transited out through the consciousness corridors that have been created to meet their level of consciousness. And it's not, we're not trying to come from judgment. We're not trying to come from, scolding. It's not that point of view. It is to be made clear that this is an ascending planet. Planet Earth is one of the planets that's ascending right now. And if there are beings who are continuously pulling their shenanigans and continuously not wanting to align with cosmic sovereign law, human or non-human, they're being transited out through these consciousness corridors, and where they're being brought to is a level of existence, a plane of existence that will cater to their level of consciousness so that they can continue their evolution at their level, at their pace. Okay, so there's not judgment with that. What it's saying is we're aligning with cosmic sovereign law here and now on this planet, and that's what it means. So yes, there are choices. You can ascend or you can choose not to ascend. But if you choose not to ascend, if you're choosing to continue this parasitic system, then you're not allowed to stay.
That's very good. I mean, yes, it makes sense. It makes sense. And I suppose on some level it's a positive news, because I suppose on some level humanity has already made that choice, that we are an ascending planet. And at some point, this parasitic structures, parasitic entities will have to leave. Yes, but the game still continues in terms of each one of us needs to make that choice, and collectively it needs to start being visible on the material plane. So, but yes, it's certainly very good point, Sonia. Thank you for that. Okay, so moving on now to what is mind control and mind control technologies. So in a nutshell, obviously pretty self-explanatory, control of the mind. However, what mainstream dictionaries do not tell us is that by controlling our mind, or whoever controls our mind, they control our soul and they control our consciousness potentially. And that you won't read it in any other dictionaries. Ascension Glossary will tell you this, but not many conventional dictionaries. Why is that? Why is that? Because the soul and consciousness has been systematically erased from sciences, from conventional educational establishments. So wherever you go, you will learn a lot about psychology, maybe you learn physics, you learn chemistry, but you don't learn really about consciousness, about intelligence, about soul. You know, the soul has become, the soul, consciousness, all these kind of topics have become the subject for philosophy, not the subject for science. And that's why, you know, or a subject of New Age. That's it. So it hasn't a conventional kind of topic, you know, where you learn that your soul is part of the mind, soul, and consciousness are all one unit. You cannot just separate them from the body and the brain. And this whole existence, you know, it's all the same, it's all one. And this is what quantum physics told us 150 years ago, that on a subatomic level, everything is energy, everything is vibrating waves. All of us are waves of vibrating energy that vibrates at different frequencies. We've known this for 150 years at least via the quantum physics. Again, it hasn't become the mainstream. Everything is still continuous, like we are machines. The body is a biochemical machine, and there is no connection whatsoever to soul, consciousness, and spirit. So that's probably important thing to understand about mind control, that it's not just controlling our mind, it's basically hijacking and controlling our soul. And that's quite serious.
Yes.
That's quite serious. So again, Sonia, Linda, if anything you want to add, do add before we move on to the next point.
It just ties in, the mind control for me as well is the hijacking of our memories and of our history, you know, of some of us over the years. You know, I think I was just thinking of someone who comes up with free energy, like Tesla, or there was a guy who was had a car running on water, and then, you know, the powers that be will just wipe out that information, put that person aside. I think that guy actually was murdered, the one that was with the car running on water, and look what happened to Tesla. So when the truth comes out, it's like the mind control powers come in. No, we don't want that information getting out, and then they want to manipulate with the media and everything else, you know, how the truth is not allowed to surface, and rubbish the claims. I think that's the thing. It's like rubbishing the claims, making it look as if that person's insane or whatever they want to throw out as judgments. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. That's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Anything that is hinting in any way, shape, or form that we are non-physical beings, that there are sources of energy that could be accessible, and there is no lack. There is no like. It's a supply. Everything gets immediately suppressed, and so maybe let's just look at the definitions of mind control. Let's see what the definitions are telling us. And I try to look at different ones, conventional ones, and maybe look at Ascension glossary, see what comes up. So the one definition which came from the dictionary on online dictionary says, mind control is subverting by means of psychological tactics individual's control of his or her mind. And in brackets it gives sometimes by the means of hypnosis. So this is one definition. So subversion of control of our minds. We've got another definition. This is from Ascension glossary. The deliberate use of various manipulations, promotion, and deception techniques, such as spreading propaganda and terror, to induce or reinforce attitudes that are favorable to gain strategic advantage over others. So this is interesting what Sonia mentioned. Why this mind control? Who's benefiting from it? Who is benefiting from gaining the strategic advantage over us, over human race? Yeah, this is good point to hold. We've got a few more here. So the process that utilizes basic psychological principles to induce or elicit conformity, compliance, persuasion, dissonance, reactance, guilt, and fear arousal. This is by Zimbardo, who is famous for his Stanford prison experiments. So you could Google him. He's an interesting psychologist who's done, I think he's wrote a book called The Luciferian Effect or something, where people were doing very cruel things to each other when they were put in certain circumstances, when they were pretending that they were prison guards. The amount of cruelty that they were able to exert, and it was done just by pretending. So he was researching those type of tendencies in human psyche. I don't think he had the context of alien agenda, but it was just an interesting psychological study. So basically, these are kind of the definition. I didn't want to go too much into it. There are many definitions that we can find to mind control, but in a nutshell, is basically deliberate subversion of control over our decisions, emotions, thoughts, feelings, to gain some kind of advantage over us, strategic advantage. And it's usually covert. It's like covertly, it's covertly kind of doing something to our thinking, subverting our kind of capacities, mental capacities, so that we think that we are free. We think that everything is fine, but we are not. So at this point, I've got a very interesting image that comes to me, but I want to first ask you if there is anything. If I were to ask you, what image come to you? If I say mind control, what do you see as an image?
The mask. What's been playing out this year? Mind control of the mask right now. That is the symbol for me. That is just like a complete, that's just shutting us down, shutting us off. When the whole image, the image of it, but the information that they put out is just such BS. When you see their information is completely contradictory, like even just 6 months ago to a year. Oh, masks don't work. They don't protect you against anything. But now it's like, oh, they protect you. You have to stop the spread. You've got to wear one and make it compulsory. And it's just, This year is just the perfect. I mean, this is what's waking people up. They can see the mind control in action now. I actually feel it's not covert anymore. It is just in your face.
Good point, Linda. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, well, yeah, I could agree with that. Yeah, yeah.
Don't get going on this. Yeah, on this year. I'll let you carry on.
Yeah, that's yeah, definitely. Yeah, Sonia, anything comes to you?
That kind of brings me to the image that I see. It's like people walking around like zombies. It's like not everybody, there's different levels, but you know, there are some people that are so entrenched in the false, I would say, the false narratives really, but they're so, they've lost connection with their God spark. And they're so consumed and relying so heavily upon these other forces that they have been mind controlled to trust. That's the image that comes to mind to me, is like people are just kind of walking around zombified, or if they're not really like in a trance, like they're just kind of like they're wearing the mask, they're walking around and they're just playing the role of a good little human who is following the rules of these controller forces that told them what to do.
Interesting. That's interesting how different images are coming, because this is the language of light. Yes, this is how light speaks to us in images. It doesn't speak necessarily in language. So that's why it was interesting to have this kind of exercise almost. But what comes to me, it's interesting. Whenever I think of mind control, what comes to me is almost like a prison, but very well made prison with very latest kind of like everything is so well done in there. Everything looks so manicured and beautiful and almost like nice and comfy. And, you know, we're just like in that prison, and it feels so comforting. It feels so nice, to the point where we don't even realize we are in the prison. It's almost like we've been in this prison for so long that it almost like we almost accustomed to even like enjoying this prison to some degree. And if somebody comes and says, hey, you're in a prison, you know, this is a prison, we're kind of like, I want to experience the prison. I came here to experience the prison, so leave me. You go and do your bit later. Maybe later I'll come to it, but at this stage in my life, I like to experience what it's like maybe to be in a prison. I don't know. That's what kind of like comes to me, because I often notice how that when you start talking to people about mind control, like it's a very strange reaction. You either get somebody like, yeah, of course, yeah, and like Linda and like yourself, you know, like don't stop me on this, I know. Or you get somebody who is like, what are you talking about? No, this is all conspiracy, this is all BS. You know, it's your ego trying to create something. So it's very interesting.
Well, the prime example is when you talk about zombies, they are stuck in the prison of their mind. Their mind is their prison, which is the negative ego.
Yes, and also it's almost like this mind control creates some kind of weird sort of invisible kind of...
In a box, yeah, they're like in the box, and anything outside of it, oh no, that's too scary.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's almost like yeah, like some sort of like a window or something, which is like transparent, but still it distorts things. Is that we don't know that we are slaves. That's the whole point of mind control.
Yeah.
You feel that you're free. You feel that everything. You feel that prison is what there is. This is life. This is the free life. So this is interesting. Yeah. Okay. So, so now we're going to go to the point: who benefits? Who benefits from mind control? So we looked at definitions. Who actually benefits from it? And this is what Sonia was mentioning. Why? Who are the main players here? So this is something obviously that we here in the Truth Pulse don't want to impose our views on anyone. It's up to everyone else to do their research, to maybe think and be proactive in terms of trying to free ourselves from this. So it's like, it's up to us to do research and be willing to seek the answer to this question, but we will present our own perspective here. So from our understanding in the Truth Pulse, whomever benefits from mind control are the same players who have been exploiting humanity for many, many millions of years, or thousands of years at least. And they've been exploiting the weaknesses and capitalizing on our resources. So these are the same players which are going onto the negative alien agenda. And we've covered that a little bit on our first podcast when we were going through terms. And these players, they comprise from on and off planet groups, and they have access to hidden esoteric resources, esoteric knowledge. They have access to advanced technology. The off-planet groups are more advanced technologically than human race. So they have technology that we will be quite advanced for our understanding. Hence, this is an advantage, it's a strategic advantage already. And obviously they managed to get hold of obscene resources. So when it comes to money, resources, it's available to these groups. And all these resources are generated by the parasitic harvesting of our consciousness, our bodies, our soul energy, and of course our planet. So this is what we are exploring in the Truth Pulse container, this line of thought. So I just want to, before I go to clarifying a little bit more on these races, Sonia, Linda, do you want to mention anything here?
Okay, you said it very well, yeah. I wanted to reiterate one other little part, just to expand upon one little thing that you said. You know, who's benefiting, or I mean, why are they doing it? That's what came to me, you know, when we were talking about it. I'm like, you know, because somebody listening to this information who may be interested in trying to learn, but is still, you know, kind of shut down, but it's, you know, it's being courageous and open-minded, probably is going, well, why would anybody do that? Who in their right mind would do that to another being? Why would you? Why? How is that even possible, right? And so that's what came to me when we were talking about it in the beginning, because those questions are going to come up for people. And the thing that I have come to understand through you know, my exploration with all of this is that they're not inner sourced. The entities are not sourced with, you know, the spark of God, creation source, the oneness, liquid, eternal, living light. There's various ways to explain it, but they're not connected in with the heart of God, the central point of all union. For whatever reason, they've severed their connection. They went off and, you know, did their own thing. They became entrapped in the ego, and they have basically severed themselves from love, from unity, from God. And so the only way that these beings that we're talking about here can maintain their existence and continue is if they steal life force energy, monies, whatever you had said, Trinity, you gave a nice list there. They are capitalizing on all of that. They have to steal it because they are not inner sourced. That's my understanding in a nutshell why they're doing it. I mean, it sounds deranged and it sounds crazy, you know, from our perspective, but they're trying to stay alive. They're trying to maintain their existence, and the only way they can do it, they stay alive for thousands and thousands, for eons, right, of years, based upon stolen, parasitized resources, energy. That's how they're doing it. And I guess they live in fear.
It's a very good point. Thank you, Sonia, because, you know, it's very difficult. When I was preparing for this presentation, it's like my head, because there is so much, and it's very difficult to sort of bring the important points. You know, I want to say so much, I want to cover so much, you know, there is so much to say about this topic. So yeah, it's very good that you're chiming. All right. So yeah, I would just want to add the same thing, maybe just to add to what you've said. Yes, it's the fact that they've lost their connection to the source, but also the fact that the earth and the humanity is so special and so unique, and so you know, we have so much that energy, and that what they have lost, that emotional body, that heart connection, what we have, is so valued, and that's exactly what they try to siphon and to harvest from us. So this is another, so the planet like us, and our template as human, as angelic human, is kind of like, and the planet like Earth is a rare thing, from what I understand, from what I hear, from what I feel. Is like, it's a unique planet to be on. It's a unique template as well, and not many extraterrestrial races have this. So there is this also, I suppose I'm going a little bit back to the history, this original conflict, that angelic human is almost like a royal heritage. We had such genetics from different founder races came and created this beautiful template, and there was a lot of hatred and jealousy because of that. So it's kind of like these conflicts go back long time, and it's everything you've said and more. So and again, we'll cover this in time. It's just time to get to those topics. So thank you, Sonia. Well said.
To add
I just
to
want to.
why,
Sorry,
Go on.
Linda. Yeah.
I mean, to add to the why as well, it is a pure hatred that they have of us.
Yeah.
And when you think about the millennia that they've gradually taken over, when you just think, to put it simply, the 13 ruling families are all overlighted by these off-planet entities. So they haven't got souls, as you know, as you've described. So that's why, if they haven't got a soul, then how do they exist? Well, they have to parasitize, which is why they have their cults and they have their satanic rituals.
Thank you, Linda. Again, I mean, yeah, you mentioned important things as well. So yeah, exactly that. So let's move on. So basically what I wanted to say after that is just maybe give a little, just name these groups. But again, it's just, there are many varieties of them. I'll just name the main ones. So the extra dimensional groups and races that are involved with the Earth currently. We have fallen angelic Anunnaki hybrids, which are called Sons of Belial, as well known as Sons of Belial. So basically the Anunnaki and all the factions of the Anunnakis. We have Thoth, Enki, Enlil collectives, and also those in the Black Sun program. Black Sun program is the Orion group program, but some of them are sort of participating in those programs from other factions as well. So we have Alpha Draconians Orion group, and these are the reptilians that have been with us for many, many years. And actually Anunnaki is part of the reptilian race, and they were hybridized with Syrians. And then of course, when they hybridized with humans, they became the Nephilim. From what I understand. But we have the Alpha Draconians Orion group, Grace, Zetas, Draconians, and the Reptile Insectoid collectives. So these are kind of the main factions, and then they have different sub-factions as well in there. So anything you want to add to this?
Well, satanic, Luciferian just keeps coming to mind. You know, there's, yeah.
Yes, yeah. I think the Orions are I think they're all like mixed. You know, some of them are more satanic, some of them are more Luciferian, and again, it's something that we'll probably cover at a later podcast. But these are the main when we go to extraterrestrial groups. And if we look at those ones who are on Earth, you already mentioned, Linda, the families, the handful of families that have kind of capitalized or to control and running basically the government structures and all major pillars of society, and they're run by the handful of families, royal, like they call themselves Illuminati or whatever names they go under, but these are a handful of families that basically hijacked all the resources and serving the negative alien agenda as well. So, and they're the ones who maintain the rulership and power over the earth, kind of like here on the earth, on the ground.
They maintain the bloodlines. They continue the bloodlines, which is
yes,
that's the trick.
Yeah.
And
yes.
that was just weird when I found that out. And the presidency spots, you know, it's all recycled bloodlines, and you wouldn't know it unless you really looked into it, right? Is that correct? It's
it's
Did
correct.
you see that video? Yeah, that had all the genetics of all the families and how they're intermarried over and over again. You look at the bloodlines; it's like cousin coming together. You know, all the royal families of Europe. It's all interbred.
Yes, because I suppose the extraterrestrial, the Anunnakis probably, and the reptilians wanted to have their own genetics, so they kind of maybe tweaked a little bit genetics, so these families continue to be able to interface with them. They needed to have their genetics here, so yeah, very true. So basically, humanity has a very long history with these factions. And this history is hidden from us, and it involves trauma on a cellular level, which is recorded in our cells, in our very being. And these memories are memories of genocide, enslavement, cataclysms, forced hybridization, abductions, cloning, consciousness traps. There's like everything you can think about. Organ harvesting and stealing of human organs and body parts, satanic ritual abuse involving children, sexual perversions, pedophilia, cannibalism. I mean, the list can go on. So these are the horrific memories that we all have in our cells. All of us will have this recorded somewhere. And we carry them with us until we are willing to look at this and start doing something about it. This is how it is.
And they're wiping that, right, Trinity? I mean, we have these memories, but when you say that, you know, until we're willing to look at it, one of the things we're working on as part of our ascension, is it true that we're working on clearing those amnesiac barriers, clearing all of the mind wiping, so we can tap into these energies? Because someone might say, well, I don't have any memories of that. I don't know where you're coming from. That's a conspiracy theory, right?
Yes.
This is what people who are first awakening or dabbling into this information are like, I don't know where you're coming from, sister, but that's not what I remember. But isn't it just in order to be able to tap into what we're talking about here, do we have to then tap into clearing that AI that's preventing that?
Fantastic point, Sonia. Yes, you're very right, because for many people, when they hear this, they will immediately feel, well, no, that's not part of me. I haven't had anything of that. And this is exactly that. In order to get to the memories of that, the clearing needs to happen, the awareness needs to come. It's almost like the light body, our soul, our spirit need to accrete a certain amount of light before we can understand and free ourselves from this mind control and memory wiping and break through this amnesic barrier, what Sonia said, in order to access these memories. So I would just say we all need to persevere with it. And this is something that, the time when we can remain as children is over. For human race, the children running in the fields and waiting for somebody to save them is over. This is over now. We are moving into the evolutionary cycle where we need to become spiritual adults. And to become spiritual adults, we need to work. We need to work consciously on ourselves. Honestly, I've personally never worked as much on myself since I've joined the US in all my life, because I'm heavily mind controlled, so I was like, oh, God will come and save me. And, all I need to do is just go and meditate and nothing will, and it will come to me.
That's an important point. I think there are a lot of ways that people are dealing with this information when they come across it, which is spiritual bypassing. Which is like, well, yeah, I just want to feel bliss. I'll just meditate all day. I'm fine.
Yeah, I don't need to know.
Yeah, I know that's happening and I'm aware of it, but because I can counteract that by just meditating and be bliss, and it's fine. I'm therefore lifting up the humanity. You've got to integrate the shadow. We have to have the integration and the healing that comes along with it. I think a lot of people will get, are being stuck in anger. There's so much anger. It's like, how can they do this to us? Why is this happening? I mean, who does not feel anger about, knowing about slavery, mind control, and the children and what's going on? But we have to learn to let go of these feelings, and whether you have memories or not, that's where we are in our hearts, are these feelings. So we have to let them out. We've got to let them go. And, then you achieve a bit more peace, with each piece that comes, then you've got this inner peace. Eventually, yeah, does that make sense? We can't get stuck. We have to keep going in with our hearts and integrating the shadow and the light, because the shadow is here. Yeah, does that make sense?
This is the part that I agree with everything you've said. And is it because, so, when you explained that people have this, this spiritual bliss mentality, and all I'm going to do is meditate all day, and it's la la la, and I'm going to just pretend that didn't happen, and I'm going to uplift humanity in that way. I think to a degree, of course, we need to keep our frequency high. But here is the piece that always interests me, which I tend to agree with, is it true we have to integrate the shadow because that's a part of our history? Like, I have been, let's say for me, for example, I've been tortured, tormented, sliced and diced and spliced, etc., throughout the galactic histories, aspects of me, bringing that back into wholeness and ascending, right? Well, isn't it true that because it's a part of who I am? I mean, I think that's the piece that people are missing. We're multidimensional beings. We've got all these aspects that are stuck in these timelines that are maybe, stapled to the grid somewhere on the planet, wherever it may be, right? I mean, would that be, if we broke it down, that's why, yes, it's important to keep our frequency high and to center ourselves in love and 0 point. But don't we have to look at that, because that's a piece of us. We need to say, oh, I forgive you. I'm so sorry. I understand. Yes, I love you. I'm going to love you back into wholeness. Is it that why we're having to look at the shadow as well?
Yes. I mean, the shadow, when you think about it, is the unconscious. Yeah, I totally agree. It is that. To have that peace and to feel that love within your heart, then you're able to have some forgiveness. So if you've got to learn to forgive the shadow at the end of the day, you've got to forgive, otherwise these fragments are not going to come back. Those fragments are created from the pain and trauma, as you've mentioned about the different timelines that we've had of all this, what's happened to us, and what we're witnessing right now. You can fracture. People are fracturing and going, this is just too much, and it's overwhelm. But that's when the shadow can take a hold, and you're spiraling downwards. So you've got to bring the light and the shadow together. You have to shine the light in the shadow. You've got to embrace it, and by embracing the shadow, what we're witnessing, you still have to embrace it. You can't just because the shadow will just have power. It will keep on having the power, doesn't it?
This is beautiful what you're both saying, because what you're both saying is that there is the path of light and the path of shadows, right? And if we do not integrate our shadow, then we will be descending, and the shadow eventually will swallow us. And the part of evolution, as I see it, is the part where we continuously, progressively integrating the shadow to the point that we do not have a shadow. And when we don't have a shadow, that means that our frequencies evolve to the level where we may not need to be in the density where the shadow is experienced. And that's called evolution. And that's exactly what is happening on the earth now, that we are at the point where we can lift our frequencies, where it's going to be less and less shadow for us. But to do this process, we do need to look at it. We can't just say, okay, this is my shadow. I'm just going to we can't take it with us to the higher frequencies, basically. And we can't just say, right, let's just cut it, bang, okay, it's gone. Because then what about that learning? What about that integration? What about that love and 0 point heart-based frequency? We can't just cut our shadow. We have to love it, integrate it. This has to happen. And it's not that difficult process. It's just looking at it, that's all, and having courage. So I hope we solved
the fragments, right? Those are the fragments that we're bringing back in. We're not loving those. We're not, then we're not getting our pieces back. We've got pieces floating around out there that fragmented off. That's our shadow. I mean, one example, right? That's right. That's why we need to do it. We need to get it back.
Yes. And it's a conscious process. We can't sit in meditation and hope that whilst we're sitting in meditation, it's all happening automatically. Maybe in meditation, if it's a type of meditation where the person could feel and see the pieces that are coming to them, that's different, because they might be processing that and doing this recon work in meditation. That's different.
But that's how they've had power. It's hidden. So whatever's hidden, if you can't see it and you're not looking at it, then how are you going to resolve it? How are you going to bring it out into the light? So whatever you're seeing, whatever you're feeling, then you've got to really say, what is the opportunity here that I'm learning? What do I need to know? I think knowledge is power. So, if you know something about something dark, that is the true power.
Yes.
Sorry, can I reiterate something you just said, Linda, because it's very important. I think for me personally, but for our listeners, you just said it in a nutshell too, is that if we are not looking at that darkness, at that shadow side, that's the hidden side, that is what the entities are manipulating.
Exactly.
The shadow.
They get their hooks in and manipulate us. That's what they're doing, how they're doing it, right?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sonia. Thank you, Linda. Very good points. So moving now to, I just thought maybe looking now at what is actually the goal of mind control. What is the goal of mind control? And Sonia was trying to, at the very beginning, ask this question, who in their right mind will want to do this? We already covered that, okay? And what is the goal of it? What do they want? And we also mentioned already a little bit about it, but let's look at it in more detail. So first one is global slavery. Global slavery. So mind control has been a primary tool in this kind of strategy for millennia, and it has maintained global slavery for thousands of years. And many humans have been so enmeshed and traumatized with these parasitic forces. I mean, all of us, I'm part of the human race, we're all part of it. So all of us have been so enmeshed and traumatized that it created almost in some of us a type of Stockholm syndrome where we actually feel some kind of codependent relationship to our abusers. You know, this mind control has been such a huge part of our lives for so many years that it almost like we're attached to it. We want it. We want to stay within its confinements and justify its existence, and it's cozy, it's nice, it's like that prison, you know, let me be, just leave me alone, I just want to stay in this prison, I don't want to know that this is a prison because it'll shake my world, I'll have to do something about it, I don't want to, let me stay in this. It's almost like a very childlike attitude of just not wanting to look at something and not wanting to take an action, or just basically burying our heads in sand and creating this defense mechanism and different excuses why we are in this, why we are in this prison. So this is unfortunately what is happening for many people, and this is good to be aware of that, and maybe ask yourself, do I want to remain a child who just does not want to look at something because it's scary, because it's gonna make change for me, it's because I have to change my behaviors, my actions? Or do I want to grow up and take charge of myself, of my life, of my environment, and of the future? So these are good questions to ask oneself. So anything, Sonia, Linda, on global slavery?
You know, the word that comes to, I like that, how you explained that, a Stockholm syndrome. And that's from World War II, right?
From what I remember, there was something happened in Stockholm, not during the World War. I think there was some traumatic situation, a bank robbery or something happened, and
It was a bank robbery.
it was a bank robbery, and victims, they were held hostage, and it was interesting how they started sort of justifying the robbers and emotionally attached.
Yeah, a bond.
Bonding, yeah, it's kind of like survival mechanism kicks in, and
Oh, but I know why you said the World War II. It's basically like a trauma bond. So yeah, it's a trauma bond.
Okay.
yeah.
So maybe something similar to that.
Yes.
Yes, so it's kind of like a trauma bond where
Your captors, your abuser.
Your abuser, you justify them, you feel empathy, compassion for them, you basically, bond with them, which is not healthy. It's not healthy. It basically strips us from our dignity, strips us from our integrity. It just takes away the boundary. Anything else here?
Yeah, the two words also that come to mind is helplessness, learned helplessness, and codependency. And again, everything's all linked because we've talked about these terms before. I'm not sure if that's coming later in the presentation. It just reminded me of, you know, when people are, if it's this collective global enslavement, you know, it's a learned helplessness, and they're doing it, you know, with all of these different tactics. You know, the negative alien agenda, okay, I should be clear, are using different tactics to achieve this, and it's the mind control mentality. Speaking of mind control, that's our topic, that's our theme. It's the learned helplessness after a while. It's the codependency. It's the Stockholm syndrome. It's having, you know, the words that you both used to explain that, you know, having empathy and compassion for your assailant or your enslaver, and you're reinforcing your own enslavement, and you're allowing, you know, this less than consciousness experience, because these beings are parasites, and they you know, they've chosen to do what they've chosen to do when they have the same opportunities as everybody, is what I want to point out. Okay, I can understand it. It's a good thing to have compassion and understanding, We don't want to come from a point of view that, we don't want to say, we hate anybody. It's not about that. It's about, like I had said earlier, if a bird is blue, you call it a blue bird. You just point out the facts, and you do your own research, and you come from, you just take your own journey with all of this. But also, I'm only saying, I'm pointing out the facts that, that is what they do, that they are parasitic. And then that's where the Stockholm Syndrome comes in trying to, I suppose, play down what they've done, and people don't even realize that they're enslaved, and this is the global enslavement, and they're walking around not even understanding what's truly going on, how they've been captured and they've been enslaved. People don't understand the full, I would say, picture of everything.
Yes, yes. And it keeps people, it keeps us, rather than being our authentic self, we are running a program. It's almost like a defense mechanism, a survival program. We are not authentic. We are not true beings who we are. It's preventing us from accessing that level of us. All these programs, but this is one of them. So yeah, thank you. So this was on global slavery. So this is one, so the goal of mind control, global slavery. Then we've got amnesia, soul recycling, and loosh. So this is another goal of mind control, to keep us in amnesia, what Sonia mentioned, what Linda mentioned, to keep us perpetually kind of in this dumped state that we don't know what, memory is erased, history is not given to us, we're being brainwashed constantly. So it's the purpose to keep humanity in a state of forgetful amnesia, perpetuating biospiritual harvesting of human energy fields, recycling of human souls, by the mind. And this is another thing that has been happening. Not many people know about this, but our souls can be recycled by just going to the astral dimension and then coming back straight to Earth. So basically, rather than after our death passage, opening and being open to various options that are open to us, going in different dimensional densities, we were not given that opportunity because of all this, what has been happening, because of mind control. We'll just go to the astral and then we'll come back, and it'll be repeated cycles of that. We won't learn, we're not learning anything, we're just going back and forth in a cycle like this, and locked in that cycle. And this was called, what is it? There was a name for it. Pulse light matrix or something. I don't know, maybe we'll. But these are kind of repeated cycles of reincarnation, that perpetuating the drama, perpetuating that sort of like wounding of the humans, that they come back on Earth. Then there is more loosh that can be siphoned from them again and again, because the trauma is being repeated constantly. More loosh, more trauma, more loosh. And that constantly maintain the power and control of the NAA of the planet. So that always had people existing to siphon from. And this is exactly what happens when we forget our true potential, when we forget who we are, we forget our inherent power, our inherent heart, what we're capable, that we're multidimensional being. We become a very tasty source of energy. That's all there is to it. We become, like Sonia said, we are zombies with a lot of energy. We're like batteries, right?
Yes.
Because we forgot. We haven't got our history. We forgot who we are. We don't know why we're here. What was going on. We don't understand. There is this cognitive dissonance. We feel something's off, but we can't quite understand what it is. And that's been,
right.
Yeah, this is exactly what they want. So this is our soul recycling and loosh. Then we've got keeping humanity dumbed down, locked in the negative ego polarity. This is another thing that aliens have done, or these forces, negative alien agenda. They created extreme polarities, which gave birth to the negative ego. Originally, when we came here as humans to experience this density, we had polarity, but we never had such extremes. We haven't had such grotesque extremes of polarities that are here now. My voice, sorry.
What's coming to mind is, the survival program to keep us in, the financial slavery, and making us believe that, this reincarnation cycle of just pain and suffering, keeping us in that survival mode. Yes. Over and over again.
Yes.
Yes. And what Sonia said already.
Stripping the planet. So therefore they're stripping us to have a, fulfilling life. It's like, no, you've just got to be our little slaves here. You just continue to work, minimum wage, and,
struggle, constant struggle.
Constant,
yes. It. Keeping us on the first chakra, survival, constantly, constant fear of survival. And a little bit what Sonia said as well before, not giving us the knowledge, not giving us the tools, the information that we need to have, and keeping us as helpless victims constantly. We're like little helpless, disempowered, children, because the information that we are given is so kind of dumbed down, is so like low-level information that there's very little chance to grow with that and develop. So just keeping humanity dumbed down and locked in this negative polarity is perpetuating this wounded child syndrome, perpetuating this disempowerment, perpetuating all this kind of dysfunctional modes of being. And it's very and also perpetuating this service to self, the negative ego. What's the negative ego? We'll talk about it, Linda. Your next podcast will be about this, but it's service to self. It's egoic. It's kind of like egoic values, about predatorial egoic values of service to self. That's what the negative ego is. So it's kind of like keeping us in that constantly. So so I think we mentioned about learned helplessness and dependence on also it's kind of like putting us in a position where we always want to have a savior, we want to have a parent, we want to have somebody who will come and save us. Oh, humanity is in having a problem, so let's have somebody to come and save us. Is it government? Is it extraterrestrial? Is it God? Is it Jehovah? Who is this? Who's going to save us? It's constantly having this, the child who seeks the savior type of complex. And and this is further kind of putting us in a position where we're forgetting more and more that we are divine beings. We have 12-strand potential, DNA potential activation inherent within us. We're multidimensional. We have a light body. So there are so many things that, we are here to discover, but mind control prevents us from that. So this is keeping humanity dumbed down. Anything else on that point to add?
I think what's coming is the victim-victimizer strategy, how that's always perpetuated, and they've had a long time of actually building the technology behind that, and what keeps us separated from ourselves and from each other is playing out these roles over and over again, which is it really ties in. That is behind mind control at the end of the day, is because you are conditioned to either be a victim or be a victimizer over and over.
It's a very powerful program. It's a false king of tyranny. Yeah, false king of tyranny program, really very powerful. And we'll talk maybe a little bit more further down. And the last point I want to make about the goal of mind control is depopulation and hive mind totalitarian technocracy. So in a way, this is a little bit of future scenario for us, potential scenario, where the current intensity of mind control, especially via electromagnetic frequencies, the G5, the Wi-Fi, everything that is around currently, forced vaccination program, all of it is aimed to prevent humanity's natural organic evolution during the cycle, we know that, to obviously depopulate, get rid of quite a few number of people, you know, to depopulate and to utilize human angelic template, again, as a power source to power the AI systems. So this is like a big final goal, to continue generating power for anthropic AI-generated systems. So,
yeah, to add to that, you just need to look up 2030, Agenda 2030. You need to look up Rockefeller documents from like 20 years ago in the 1950s. They've been planning it for a very, very long time.
yeah, and it has been steadily implemented. So
Yeah.
it's important that we open our eyes and see, and be courageous to look. So I just want to ask our audience, I want to ask us to think about it. Do we think that a multidimensional being who can travel in and out of many dimensions be mind controlled? Yes, no. Very difficult to mind control somebody, yes, who knows that they're multidimensional and they could move from different dimensions. Could they be mind controlled?
I would say you still have to watch it. I mean, there is a yes and a no to that, as there are deceptions everywhere on different dimensions also, you know, when you think about it. So you'd have to really watch for it. You'd have to discern and really be very strong within your own heart and with your strong God connection to resist these forces, because they're everywhere. So, you know, this whole new age concept of like, yeah, open up your third eye. Yeah, let's get all your higher sensory perceptions online, and let's do astral travel. But, you know, they're there as well. So, yeah,
yes,
just to be wary. The mind control is on every, you know, dimensions of this galaxy. So yeah, just be very, very careful with that as well.
Yes, and it's a good place to start. So now is a good place to start developing that discernment, developing that, and being mindful that it's not just here, it's on other finer dimensions too. So developing that discernment, developing that heart-based intuition and feeling-based discernment, reading, understanding and reading the signature, the energy signature of something.
Energy signature.
Yeah. Rather than being able to see or hear, because our eyes, our ears could deceive us, our senses could deceive us, but it's developing that inner discernment, and we all, each one of us have that. It's our heart. We just need to start, and this is a good time to start, and we are all in this journey together. So that's a very good. Another question: can someone who has strong
Can I just say one thing?
Sorry,
to
Sonia.
reinforce what you both just said. In my own words, and to back what you're both saying and to reinforce what you're saying, is to, you know, how do we do that? Because Linda, you make a good point in that, you know, we have to watch, you know, the AI everywhere. It's everywhere. And, you know, if we're multidimensional beings, yes, but still the process in waking up, you know, it's a process. It's clearing all the layers, and it's refining. It's a refinement process. Refining, you know, that diamond. It's a refinement process. So we're tapping into the feeling body, the emotional body. You know, we're reading the energy signatures, and it's a process, and we become I would say better and better at being able to understand and detect what is AI and what is the false ascension matrix, what is something that appears to be true, but it's actually just a falsity. It's something that has been created to trick us. We get better and better to be able to discern that, and it's about direct knowing. It's a direct knowing process when we can fully connect into the heart of God, that which we are, or the central point of all union. Everybody has their own wording. If you don't like the word God, use what you like. But I'm just saying that you connect into that, the purity of it all, and that's the process.
Beautiful, beautifully said, Sonia. Fantastically said. Thank you. It just like gave such a good summary to what we were talking. You're absolutely right. It's about that heart-based, zero-point, visceral, intuitive knowing, which can only be developed through practice and through, yes, practicing, coming away from the mind structures, coming away from the intellectual, mental body, moving more into the heart. And also, I would add also maybe be curious about our history. Be curious about personal history, personal history of humanity. Why am I here? What am I doing here? Why did I come here? What is my purpose? Who am I? These kind of questions, they're good questions to ask. And again, we'll cover in our future podcast, we've got universal laws that are like 13 universal laws. And one of them is the law of response. Each time we ask a question, by the law of response, we'll get an answer. So these are all good questions to ask, and the answers will come. And this is part of this process. So I just want to say, maybe, I don't know what I was trying to say. I was just trying to say that this is just
that's a great point. That's really
it's a process. Yeah, it's a process, and it doesn't have to be like, oh my God, I've got to go now and I've got to like do this, and there is mind control and I have to do it doesn't have to be like this. It's a flow. It's an intuitive process, just unfolding and being curious about, why are you here? Why are we here? What am I doing here? Good questions to ask.
It's worth remembering that they are master manipulators, and that's their game, and they know everything about us. Yeah. So they'll take one look at me and say, oh, she was a Cathar in a past timeline, I know which button to press. And they will start pressing it, and they will just manipulate whatever pain I'm holding on that timeline. So, they can disguise themselves as, some beloved from a past timeline. Yeah, we were Cathars together. They can pretend. It is constantly discerning from within your heart the energy signature, and to keep asking, is there any manipulation here? Over and over. Yes. It really is just to be fully aware and to be fully in your power, because the more you do that, they just can't vibrate then. Sooner or later, they start breaking up almost. It's once you start, shining that sort of truth, heart, spirit, they sooner or later that, it's almost like their manipulation and this deception of this energy signature that they're holding. It breaks up. It does transmute sooner or later. But if you've got a pain there and it's like, oh, I want to believe that, they will tell you what you want to hear. So it's just really worth remembering that.
Yes, and it's very good just talking about flow and intuition, because this is exactly what we're going to go next now, what you've just said.
Okay.
And this is what makes mind control successful. And this is exactly the first point here, is hidden traumatic history and erased memories. Yes, hidden traumas, like you said, they know our hidden traumas and they manipulate it. And that's what makes it successful. We don't know, but they do. Here we go. And like we said, humanity had traumatized history with this off and on planet groups for thousands of years. Memories were wiped, like exactly what you just said. Our DNA was deactivated, 12-strand DNA. Originally, that's what we had, deactivated, junk DNA now. Memories erased, we don't know who we are. And this has been capitalized on, and this is why is it so successful. I mean, we're being recycled from astral there and back. We don't know, we forgot who we are. Our memories are erased. We're given electric shock each time we suddenly start breaking through into some other layers, higher layers. We're given the shock to go back into this density again. So that's why it's been successful. And these traumas they are real traumas. The last cataclysm we had was Atlantean cataclysm, 10,500 years ago. Enormous flood, explosion, and then another Atlantean cataclysm was 30,000 years ago, pole shift. I mean, this is all in our memories. This is all recorded. And this is exactly what they capitalized. And especially now, they're trying to bring the timeline, Atlantean timeline, back. And what happened in the Atlantean timeline is that it was misuse of energy. It was misuse of technology. And the underground crystals exploded. I think, I'm not sure whether it was the last one or the one before that, but it's the same kind of like players, and the same drama is continuing. It's misuse of energy. It's capitalizing on our weaknesses, capitalizing on and trying to push us into that timeline again so we could repeat it again. So this is a good point. Hidden traumatic history, erased memories, makes it successful. Unhealed pain, our unhealed pain makes it successful for them, because what we talked about, the shadow, if we don't know about our shadow, if the shadow is there and we never looked at it, we don't know what it is, this is a weakness. They're going to get in and they're going to use that, and mind control going to get in there. We have needs, we have traumas that are easily manipulated as a result. So, and our biological integrity, our nervous system is compromised via that as well, because it weakens us, and they use technology to weaken us even more. So it's all kind of like working together. This mind control is like a big machine which is working on so many levels and capitalizing on so many different kind of almost so different strands within us, within our psyche, within our light body. So anything to add here? I'm just looking what else. I just don't want us to repeat ourselves. So anything you want to add to that? What makes mind control successful on top of what we've just mentioned?
There's some good points there, pretty much covered really.
What I wanted to say here also to add is that this trauma is passed on via generations. So here we're coming to generational trauma, generational bindings that come via the generation, because mind control utilizes this hidden trauma within generations. Like the person is born and they don't know that they are already bound to some kind of binding with a particular entity. They don't know, and they don't realize why their life is going in a certain direction. And then what happens is that they start blaming themselves, and they don't realize that that blame doesn't even belong to them. It's superimposed upon them. So here we're talking about superimposed influences on us. So somebody has done something, but I am paying for the sins of my parents, or I am paying for this because my grandmother long time ago did some kind of covenant with somebody, and I'm paying for it, but I have no idea. And they capitalize on that. They claim, they take ownership of the person just because they belong to a particular family that had that binding. So this is also a weakness. It's almost like a collective miasma, dead weight, something that is passed on from generation and accumulated. And then we are carrying this, each one of us and the planet. So this is also quite convenient for these forces, because they, as far as they're concerned, they put all exhaust on us. They just parasitize on us, use us, siphon us, and then put exhaust upon us. We carry the exhaust. We feel the guilt. We feel all the feelings. Quite unfair. And also that we are blocked from accessing the technology, the esoteric knowledge. Everything's hidden. You know, the access that we have is to very primitive technology. I mean, the technology that we have here on Earth currently to us, it's almost like, looks like this is something, but actually it's quite primitive compared to technology that is available to these races, or it potentially could have been available to us if Tesla wasn't eliminated. Yes, if other scientists or other great minds were able to bring forth their genius, inventions. But all this is hidden, all this is hijacked, taken underground, serving their agenda. It's not given to humanity, it's not open source. So this is another kind of...
I think that's one of the biggest mind control concepts ever, is that we are the only race existing on this little planet, floating through millions and trillions of other planets, galaxies and stars. It's just us, no one else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm just like, I can't really remember. I think I was about 16, 17, and I went into this New Age shop and I looked at this magazine and saw these greys on the front cover, and I swear every bone in my body was like, I know you. I know. I was just, wow, why are you so clear?
Yeah.
So ever since then, as soon as someone starts going about UFOs, yeah, I know. I just feel it in my body. No one needs to tell me. And when, I just could not, my mind was blown that people can actually, I want proof. It's like, no, it's common sense to me. It's just common sense. And also I think my experience, it's all about experience. And if you experience the invisible realms as I did as a child, you might not see it, but they're there, Yeah. I mean, I can hear and see them. So just because someone else says, oh, you're insane, you're schizophrenic, you're hearing voices, fairies don't exist. Excuse me?
Yes.
That's very well said. Very well said.
Well, yeah.
I'd like to add to that. I appreciate your comment, Linda. That's exquisite, exquisitely said. I will add a perspective for the listeners. First of all, I agree with everything that you just said, Linda. Now, I will add a perspective that has changed, but from when I was growing up. It kind of ties into what you were saying, Trinity, too, because it's like you were talking about, the different family of origin and, the superimposition, the karma, the karmic exhaust, and you're taking all that on. You're born into a family, and you're taking all that, that family lineage has, whatever it's about, and it has to be integrated into your being. You're born into that. So it kind of ties into that. My perspective is that I was born into a family of origin that was exactly that. Meaning shut down. When people say, like Linda, you say, well, I want proof. Well, what are you talking about? Wow. Could I relate to what you just said? In that people are shut down. This is part of the mind control. They're using artificial intelligence, the implants. They're using possession. They're poisoning us in various ways that we've talked about. And it was very effective. They rewrote my consciousness. I was, I was a part of, my environment as a child. It's like you are what you eat, as an example, as a metaphor. You are what your environment is. Now, some people, it may not be as deeply affected, but I was. So I can present this side of it, in where I know where people are coming from when they're like, well, I want the proof. What are you talking about? Well, I don't see that, and I don't feel that, and I'm happy where I'm at. I'm happy with going, working my job, my 3D job, and then having the barbecue on the weekend, inviting my family over, and just staying in that constant, not ever breaking out of that. I understand that. That's where I was at for many years when I was growing up. The entities were effective in, I would say, whatever they did to my consciousness, they diluted and diverted my consciousness to be locked in that mind control set. So I don't know how to explain it any better than that, but I was like walking that line of consciousness. I was in that. I was in the thick of it. And now I will look around and go, my gosh. Now, as if I could be the only race of being in existence. You know, this is the absurdity that we talked about. It's like, how can we be the only race of beings? You know, how absurd is this mind control and, you know, this egoic programming, that this line of BS that I've been fed? How dare I ever think such a thing? You know, that is just silliness. That's absolute silliness to ever think that we're just the only beings. So this is part of, like you said, Trinity, becoming a spiritual adult. We were spiritual children. We've been fed all this. You know, Ascension is here. It's time to break out of that toxic consciousness. The lies and the illusions start opening up and expanding and understanding the truth.
Well said, Sonia. Well said.
Well said.
Linda.
You mentioned implants, and I think we're going to cover that. We're going to expand on a lot of that because it does tie under mind control, the implants. So
yes,
yeah,
yes.
Just as a note to self.
Yes, yes, yeah, we've got it planned. But I just want to say reiterate what Sonia said. Exactly, I could say exactly the same story about myself. I was born into the family that had bindings, and did I have a choice when I was a child to be anything different other than to continue and carry on with this bindings or being claimed in some way as part of that? Did I have a choice of not participating in sexual misery programming or being involved in that? No, I didn't. My mother was in it. My father were, you know, it's like, you don't. So I suppose the good news is that we have to take maybe something on in order to then to clear it. So this is why this knowledge is now coming. This is now, we came during this cycle so that we can clear this, we can understand this, we can integrate that shadow, integrate and close that timeline once and for all. So we're here to clear it and close it, bring it to 0 point and move on. All of us who are conscious about this process, each one of us is here probably to do this. That's why we're here at this time. Why we would be here at this time on earth? There's a reason why. And that could be one of those reasons, to break those dysfunctional, heal the trauma and break all those dysfunctional bindings that have been part of our existence for so long. So thank you both. That was very helpful. I just want to finish this section, the section about what makes mind control successful. So we said that it's traumatic history, it's pain, it's generational bindings and pain, it's humanity being not able to access true knowledge and true information and locked away from technology, not being able to access technology, which is, yes. So what I'd like to finish with is everything that is expected from an ordinary weapon is expected from a silent weapon by its creators. So we're talking about mind control. The public cannot comprehend this weapon and therefore cannot believe that they are being attacked or subdued by a weapon. So this is the key point of mind control. It's silent, it's invisible, it's totally and utterly undetectable. And in this, its strength. So mind control, once it becomes visible, if humanity woke up to the reality of mind control, it'll collapse immediately. It'll not be effective, because our observer, the power of our consciousness is so strong that it could collapse any mind control in seconds. But we each need to become conscious of it. So what keeps mind control going is our you know, not wanting to look at it, not wanting to.
Well, it's tuning into the media, the constant media, you know, television screens in everyone's living room. What is that pulsing? Subliminal messages, constant, be a consumer, you know, be this, be dependent. All the social media, what's that doing to our consciousness? Yeah, it's these silent mind control weapons that.
And that is a very good.
Sorry,
Sonia, keep going.
Linda, when you mentioned the TVs, now that I'm aware of that too. I don't have a TV, but I'll occasionally watch a Netflix film or, you know, from my computer. And because I'm not interested in having a TV for that reason that you just mentioned. You know, these mind control impulses coming through the television. Sounds kind of sci-fi, but it's actually true. And I just cringe when I'm at the hotel. I work at a hotel, and people will call me and say, my TV's not working. I need my TV to fall asleep with. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're leaving that on while you're sleeping? I don't say that, but I mean, I want to. There's a time and a place for everything, and I usually don't say that because, you know, I would get in trouble at this point. I choose my battles, but I just keep in mind when you said that, because I'm like, people are leaving their televisions on while they're sleeping, and they don't know how that's affecting them so negatively. The entities can project negative consciousness or AI, or you may be able to say it better, right through the television into your light body while you're sleeping, and you have no idea what's happening to you.
Well said. And both of you intuitively again brought us to the exactly what we're going to talk now, and that is how mind control is, how is it delivered. So both of you kind of segued quite nicely.
Well, you were connected. So.
Yeah, it's good. It shows that we're in a flow, so that's good. So I put 4 main categories, but probably there are more, but I just wanted so that it's concise. The 4 main categories. So how mind control is delivered is what Linda and Sonia's already mentioned. And the category will be electromagnetic wave spectrum, which is delivered to our brain, pulsing all these vibrations, all these electromagnetic waves. So this is one. Then we have installation of the collective human mind, predatory mindset, or a kind of archetypal kind of installation, like all of these egoic programs, like the negative ego. So this is another one. Then we have biochemical warfare used to mind control humanity, again, to compromise our immune system, our biological system, our mind, called Ascension. So here we have geoengineering, vaccines, big pharma. So this is our biochemical warfare. And also we have etheric. So here we have mind control via etheric implants, and also AI kind of. I put AI here because although AI is, it's actually crosses with the electromagnetic, but AI and nanotechnology is so small, although it's kind of physical, but it's so tiny, it's kind of a nanoparticle. So I put it almost like a holographic type of implantation. What I would like to say before we finish is that just to remember that mind control is invisible, mind control is undetectable, and it is happening as we speak. I am mind controlled still, although I am free myself and I am trying to clear my body and clear myself from these implants, but I'm very aware that I have weaknesses that are mind controlled, and all of us are. So it's important to not deny its existence. And in order to be free and sovereign beings, we must face that. We must face mind control in order to heal it. So to become spiritual adults, we need to do this. So this is what I wanted to say. And as I said, take what resonates. As we always say, take what resonates, discard all the rest. It's up to each one of us to become discerning in what information we take, what we don't, or maybe what information isn't for us at this moment, but also staying open and not being closed, being an open system rather than a closed system. And thank you for participating with us, and we hope that we will see you next week. Thank you, and namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, next week we'll be talking about ego, the light body, and I mean, what ties in with the ego is also the mind control, and it is heavy. And I just want to just end on a light note, which is there is good news. You know, the good news is that the architecture is changing on the planet, and it's changing within us, and it's changing around us. You know, and we'll get there. So there is hope. There's lots of it. So, and there's lots of work being done. As above, so below. So yeah, thanks for listening.
Good
and
news.
we'll see you. We will see you next week, and we will end with our prayer. Let's just come into our hearts. Beloved God and the eternal Christ families serving the law of one, please amplify our prayer request. As the avatars of Christ Sophia and the true spirit that we are, for one and for all, we pray for the sovereign rights of all humanity to be restored to God's natural laws on this earth. May all those that are awakening, feeling betrayed and confused by this Antichrist war game that is playing out, we lovingly decree that their hearts are healed, their spirits reclaimed in the power of our Holy Mother and Holy Father that has returned to this earth. May we stand strong with love and courage, bringing coherence to every level of their consciousness, remembering the truth of the infinite God spark that we are. We pray on behalf of our children that the harvesting of Lush end completely. Please free humanity of the enslavement, the SRA, the deception and entrapment from the psychopathic death cults. We ask for divine right order and harmony on this disclosure ascension timeline. In unity, we will prevail. May the truth set us free. We are the cosmic Christ. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God.